Welcome everyone, join us today as we take a journey through the extraordinary life of the iconic frontman of The Clash, Joe Strummer, whose music and activism left an indelible mark on punk rock and beyond. So let's dive in. Joe Strummer, born John Graham Meller in Ankara, Turkey. Joe's grandparents worked for the colonial railway system in India and died in a car accident in 1922. Joe's father was a diplomat, and his mother was a nurse, but neither excelled in parenting. Joe and his older brother David spent most of their youth at a British boarding school. In an interview, Joe expressed his resentment towards his parents' absence, feeling abandoned by their lack of involvement in his life. When he did spend time with his parents, their strictness made him refer to his father as a bastard. Joe often reflected on his feelings after being sent to boarding school, saying, "I just subconsciously went to the heart of the matter, which was, forget about your parents." He described the boarding school as a place where thick rich people sent their thick rich kids, and he had every reason to despise it. On his first day, he was initiated by older students by being dumped into a bathtub full of used toilet paper. Not to be outdone, Joe eventually became a bully himself, once slapping a smaller boy until he broke his glasses. His brother David, 18 months older than Joe, led a troubled life. In 1970, David died from a massive aspirin overdose. Before his death, he dabbled in the occult and joined the National Front, a British Nazi group. Joe kept his distance due to David's beliefs but was deeply affected by having to identify his brother's body, which had been undiscovered for 3 days. Later in life, Joe mentioned that his strained relationship with David motivated him to combat racism through various charitable campaigns. After his brother's passing, Joe's father Ronald would later pass in early 1984, followed by his mother in 1986, who had been diagnosed with cancer a year earlier. Joe decided to pursue a career as a cartoonist and enrolled at the London Central School of Art and Design. However, he quickly realized it was a lousy setup. LSD and Woody Guthrie's protest songs helped him cope with the boredom. Moving in with art school classmates, Joe met a fiddler named Timon Dog and began following him to busk in London Underground stations. His first gig was at Green Park Tube Station, where he played "Johnny Be Good" on a ukulele he bought for £1.99 on Shaftesbury Road. After being expelled from art school in a squat, Joe, now known as Woody Meller, spent 2 years doing absolutely nothing, working on a farm when necessary. Following a girlfriend studying at Cardiff Art School, Joe moved to Newport, Wales, settling in with some former London Central friends. He shared a flat with Mikey Foot, a future soundman, and attended lectures at Newport College of Art, where he was seen as a talented artist. Joe then moved in with bassist Jiving Alan Jones, who had started a band with Rob Angelo on guitar, Bob Blow Jackson on saxophone, and Jeff Cooper on drums. They needed a drum kit, and Joe had one, so he lent it in exchange for the position of frontman. The Vultures played some disastrous gigs, and by May 1971, tired of working as a gravedigger for the local council, Joe got homesick and returned to London to resume busking. After discovering that the tube station speakers were connected directly to the transport police, who frequently detained him, he quit busking. He took several odd jobs, including garbage carrying at the English National Opera, until he was fired for practicing his guitar in the orchestra pit. The £120 he received upon being fired paid for his AC-30 amplifier. With his friends from Maida Hill's squatting community, Joe formed his second band, the 101ers, named after their squat on Walterton Road. The initial lineup included brothers Pat on bass and Richard Dudansky, Nuther on drums, Simon Castle, and Alvaro Pene Rojas on sax. Their first gig was at the Brixton Telegraph on September 6, 1974. Around this time, he adopted the name Joe Strummer. Various shifts in personnel eventually brought the lineup to Clive Temperley on lead guitar, who was replaced by Martin Stone, along with Molle Chesterton on bass, and Dan Callagher on bass and keyboards. The 101ers earned a strong reputation as a live act and released 2 singles on Chiswick Records, "Keys to Your Heart" and "Sweet Revenge", featuring sharp R&B numbers. In 1981, Joe and Richard Dudansky released Elgin Avenue Breakdown, a vinyl testimony of the 101ers days, on Virgin's small label Andalusia. This was in honor of Paloma Romano, aka Palmolive, drummer for the Slits, and the Raincoats, for whom Joe penned his first song, "Keys to Your Heart". Despite their local success, Joe became increasingly frustrated with the lack of recognition from the music press and what he perceived as an outdated musical style. However, a shift was on the horizon. In North America, a new musical movement, not yet dubbed punk, was gaining attention, led by bands like the Ramones, the Dead Boys, Blondie, Television, and Richard Hell and Voidoids. Meanwhile, in Great Britain, the youth were showing signs of frustration, rejecting the excesses of the older bands and forming the nucleus of a wave that would soon revolutionize popular music. From one side of London, the Swankers, later known as the Sex Pistols, emerged. Meanwhile, talented lead guitarist Mick Jones, known for his catchy tunes, teams up with aspiring art designer Paul Simonon, whom he mentors on bass. Keith Levine rounds out the lineup of the London SS. However, a rhythm guitarist and frontman are still needed. Bernard Rhodes, the band's manager, learns about a potential candidate from Levine. They visit the 101 Ers at the 100 Club, where Mick and Paul have also noticed Joe at the Red Cow Pub and the Lisson Street DHSS office. Joe experiences a turning point when the Sex Pistols open for the 101 Ers on April 3, 1976, at the Nashville. Everything aligns perfectly, leading to the dissolution of both the London SS and the 101 Ers. Terry Chimes, soon to be replaced by the legendary Nicky Topper Headon, takes on drumming duties, and the Clash is born. After 2 months of rehearsals and songwriting, the Clash made their debut on July 4, 1976, at the Black Swan in Sheffield. The band's influential career is well documented, having produced 6 albums, 16 vinyl sides, and numerous singles, solidifying their status as one of the most powerful and creative musical forces of the late 20th century. The CD From Here to Eternity captures the band's intense live performances, while Westway to the World, a documentary by longtime collaborator Don Letts, provides further insight into their impact. Johnny Green's book, A Riot of Our Own, offers a more personal perspective on the band's dynamic. In early 1979, Joe began a relationship with 17-year-old Gabrielle Salter, a young woman he initially asked out on a movie date. They had 2 daughters, Jazz Domino Holly in 1984, and Lola Maybelline in 1986, and remained together for 14 years. Their relationship would later end in 1993 when his affair with Lucinda Tate was discovered, leading Joe to relocate his family from Notting Hill Gate to Hampshire County to provide a better environment for his children. After the Clash disbanded in 1986, Joe focused on acting and writing soundtracks. He appeared as Sims in Alex Cox's Straight to Hell in 1987, and as Fawcett in Walker in 1989, filmed in Nicaragua. In Mystery Train in 1989, written by Jim Jarmusch, he played Johnny, a rockabilly misfit. He took on the role of pilot Vince Taylor in F.J. Ossing's Dr. Chance in 1997, and made cameos in Candy Mountain in 1987 by Robert Frank and Rudy Wurlitzer, I Hired a Contract Killer in 1990, by Aki Kaurismäki, and Super 8 Stories in 2001 by Emir Kusturica, featuring the No Smoking Orchestra. Joe's acting career could have started earlier. He had a brief role in Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy in 1983, and was offered a part in Stephen Frears' 1984 thriller, The Hit. However, he declined the role, which allowed Tim Roth to make his film debut. Joe composed numerous scores and soundtracks, including those for Alex Cox's Sid and Nancy in 1986, and Straight to Hell Marissa Silva's Permanent Record in 1988 featuring his band The Latino Rockabilly War, Sarah Driver's When Pigs Fly in 1993, and George Armitage's Grosse Point Blank in 1997. He also ventured into directing with a 16mm film, Hell WC-10 in 1983, although it was reportedly lost until Don Letts discovered and released it in 2001. In addition, Joe made a notable TV appearance in the South Park episode Chef Aid in July 10, 1998, with his song, It's a Rocking World featured on the soundtrack. However, his solo musical projects met with mixed success. The 1988 Rock the Rich tour, backed by the anarchist group Class War, faced heavy criticism. His album, Earthquake Weather in 1989, and the subsequent tour led to exhaustion and financial strain, causing CBS to delay further studio work, while hopes for a Clash reunion lingered. Joe did reunite with Mick Jones to contribute to Big Audio Dynamite's second album, Number 10 Upping Street in 1986. A period of stage inactivity began for Joe, with a brief return in late 1991 when the Pogues enlisted him to fill in for their unreliable frontman, Shane MacGowan. Joe had previously stepped in for Phil Chevron in 1987 during an illness. He also ventured into producing, notably working on the Pogues' Hell's Ditch in 1990 and less prominent acts like the Red Roosters and Spain's 091. In 1992, Joe entered his wilderness years, continuing to write songs like Road to Rock and Roll, which Johnny Cash rejected, and contributing to Brian Setzer's Guitar Slinger. Despite efforts with projects like Machine Radar and Strummerville, success eluded him. He produced for Kix Joy Darkness and contributed to Generations in 1998 with Electric Doghouse. Joe also appeared on Emmaus Movement for a French charity, and in the late 90s, he DJ'd at raves and festivals, marking a new chapter in his life. Joe married Lucinda Tate after divorcing Pamela Moolman, his previous wife, whom he married in 1975 for money and British citizenship. Joe, Lucinda, and her daughter settled in a Somerset farmhouse in 1997. Struggles with his CBS and Sony contract halted his career, and after failing to pay the £5 million needed to exit, he went on strike. The contract was eventually terminated for his solo work, allowing him to seek a new deal. Hellcat Records, run by Rancid's Tim Armstrong, offered him a contract. From 1998, Joe hosted several BBC World Service series, including Joe Strummer's London Calling, showcasing his diverse musical interests from Dean Martin to reggae. While playing in Fat Les, a group of artists, musicians, and actors led by Keith Allen, Joe met guitarist Anthony Genn, formerly of Elastica. Joe had noticed Anthony's stage presence in 1995 at Glastonbury Festival. With Genn's encouragement, Joe's new band, the Mescaleros, took shape. Martin Slattery from Black Grape, Scott Shields, percussionist Pablo Cook, and drummer Steve Smiley Barnard completed the lineup. The band hit the road on June 10, 1999, touring from Sheffield to Amsterdam, Paris to New York, and many places in between. Their album Rock Art and the X-Ray Style, released in November 1999, received critical acclaim, marking Joe's celebrated return. The tour was praised by press and fans alike, as the band blended R&B, reggae, Latin, African beats, and punk anthems. By summer 2000, Anthony Genn left after the version 2000 gig. Joe then brought in his old friend Timon Dog, who joined the band full-time on October 27, 2000, at the 100 Club. Smiley left the band shortly thereafter. Joe's talent was finally recognized when he received the Inspirational Award from Britain's Q magazine in October 2000 and the Ivor Novello Award for The Clash's outstanding contribution to British music on May 24, 2001. This event marked the first time since 1982 that the legendary lineup of Headon, Jones, Simon and Strummer reunited on stage. In August 2001, the album Global A Go-Go was released to critical and fan acclaim, showcasing a broad musical range from reggae to Celtic, Balkan, and African beats. This album highlighted Joe's ongoing social, political, and musical relevance. The subsequent tour took Joe and the revamped Mescaleros across North America, the UK, Japan, and Europe. The new lineup included Simon Stafford on bass, Scott Shields on lead guitar, Luke Bullen on drums, Timon Dog, and the versatile Martin Slattery. Percussionist Pablo Cook left after the August 4, 2001, double bill with the Brian Setzer Orchestra in LA. Joe's last regular gig was at the Liverpool Academy on November 22, 2002. His final performance, however, took place just 2 weeks before his death at a small club called the Palace in Bridgewater, Somerset, near his home. Shortly before he passed away, Joe collaborated with U2's Bono to co-write the song 46664 for Nelson Mandela, supporting a campaign against AIDS in Africa. Sadly, on December 22, 2002, at the age of 50, Joe was found dead by his wife at their home in Broomfield, Somerset. An autopsy revealed that he died from a heart attack caused by an undiagnosed congenital heart defect. He was later cremated, and his ashes were given to his family. And there you have it. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Joe Strummer's life and legacy. His passion and dedication live on, influencing countless artists and activists. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of music's most legendary figures. Take care and bye for now.